It seemed like just another quiet night in Milwaukee, until a frantic man with a handcuff dangling from his wrist flagged down police. What they discovered behind the door of apartment 213 would shock the world. A chilling story of charm, deception, and unthinkable horrors. This is a case of Jeffrey Dahmer, the Milwaukee Monster. Tonight, we peel back the layers of one of America's most disturbing true crimes, and the dark mind behind it. His crime, so depraved, so monstrous, would shake the world to its core, leaving us to grapple with the chilling reality that such darkness could hide behind an ordinary face. Jeffrey Dahmer wasn't just a serial killer. He was a predator whose wicked acts defied comprehension, a man who turned his small apartment on North 25th Street into a house of unspeakable horrors. Between 1978 and 1991, he claimed 17 lives, young men and boys lured with promises of money or companionship, only to meet a fate so cruel it still haunts us. Dahmer's depravity went beyond taking lives. He reveled in the aftermath, keeping grotesque mementos and experimenting with his victims in ways that twisted the very meaning of humanity. His story is a descent into a nightmare, one that forces us to confront the depths of human darkness. Born in Milwaukee in 1960, Dahmer's early years hinted at the monster he'd become. His childhood in Ohio was marked by chaos. Parents locked in bitter, endless fights, leaving young Jeffrey alone, ignored and adrift. He was different, even then. Classmates noticed his cold detachment. When kids fell or cried, he'd laugh, untouched by their pain. His fascination with death started small, collecting insects, preserving their tiny bodies in jars of chemicals. But it grew darker. He'd catch fish, not to eat, but to slice them open, mesmerized by their insides. By his teens, his obsession turned sinister. In the woods behind his home, he'd mutilate stray animals, even nailing a dog's corpse to a tree, a chilling foreshadowing of the atrocities to come. Dahmer's inner darkness took hold. That June, he saw 19-year-old Stephen Hicks hitchhiking and invited him over for drinks. They talked, laughed, shared a moment of connection. But when Hicks moved to leave, something snapped. Dahmer's desperate fear of being alone consumed him. He grabbed a barbell, crushed Hicks' skull, and ended his life. What followed was even more horrifying. He dismembered the body, dissolved it in acid, and pulverized the bones. The woods behind his house, once a playground for his morbid curiosities, became a graveyard. This first act of violence wasn't a one-off. It was a spark that ignited a 13-year reign of terror. For nearly a decade, Dahmer paused his killings, but the urge never left. After flunking out of college and being discharged from the Army for alcoholism, he landed in Milwaukee, living with his grandmother. By 1986, his behavior grew erratic, arrested for public indecency, exposing himself to strangers, even children. He haunted gay bars and bathhouses, not for connection, but to hunt. Dahmer preyed on the vulnerable, men estranged from their families, those society overlooked. He saw them as perfect targets, people whose absence might go unnoticed. His grandmother's home, a place of warmth for most, became his first killing ground. She noticed strange smells, young men coming and going, but never suspected the unimaginable truth. By 1987, Dahmer's bloodlust returned with vengeance. He moved into his own apartment on North 25th Street, a nondescript space that hid his diabolical acts. His method was chillingly calculated. Lure men with offers of cash for photos or company, spike their drinks with sedatives, and render them helpless. Once unconscious, he'd strangle them, their lives snuffed out to feed his twisted desires. But death wasn't the end. Dahmer's cruelty extended into macabre, keeping skulls as trophies, storing remains in his fridge, even consuming parts of his victims to keep them with him forever. His apartment became a shrine to his depravity, a place where he built a grotesque altar of bones, driven by a sick need for control and possession. One of the most heartbreaking moments came in May 1991, when Dahmer's evil nearly came to light. He lured 14-year-old Conrad Sintosamphone to his apartment, drugged him, and, in a horrifying experiment, drilled into his skull, hoping to create a submissive companion. While Dahmer stepped out, Conrad stumbled into the street, naked and disoriented. Neighbors, alarmed, called the police. Dahmer returned, cool and composed, convincing officers it was a misunderstanding between lovers. He claimed Conorak was 19, drunk, and his boyfriend. The police, missing the decomposing remains just feet away, left the boy in Dahmer's hands. Hours later, Conorak was dead. This missed opportunity to stop the Milwaukee Cannibal left a scar on the city, a painful reminder of what could have been. Dahmer's hunger for control only grew. In July 1991, he killed 4 men in just 16 days, his pace frantic, his cruelty boundless. His 17th victim, Tracy Edwards, would be his undoing. Dahmer tried his usual routine, handcuffs, drugs, control, but Edwards sensed the danger. Spotting Polaroids of dismembered victims, he fled, running half-naked into the street, where he flagged down police. When officers entered Dahmer's apartment, they stepped into a nightmare. Skulls lined the fridge, a barrel held dissolving remains, and the stench of death was overwhelming. One officer's scream echoed the horror they uncovered. Dahmer, cornered, surrendered, his reign of terror finally over. The world reeled as news broke. Milwaukee, known for beer and hard work, couldn't fathom such evil in its midst. Dahmer's confession, a 38-page catalog of atrocities, leaked to press, detailing his methodical destruction of evidence and his choice of victims who wouldn't be missed. His unassuming life, working at a chocolate factory, blending into the neighborhood, made his crimes even more chilling. He was no monster in appearance, just a quiet man next door, which made the truth all the more terrifying. In 1992, Dahmer's trial captivated the nation. The question wasn't guilt. He admitted to 16 murders in Wisconsin, but whether he was sane. Prosecutor Mike McCann, a man of faith, called Dahmer's acts evil beyond words, arguing he planned every detail with cold precision. Psychiatrist Dr. Philip Resnick testified that Dahmer's compulsions, while depraved, didn't render him insane. Unlike others with similar urges, he chose to kill, not seeking less violent outlets. In court, Dahmer sat calmly, almost attached, saying, "I knew I was sick or evil or both." The jury agreed, finding him sane and sentencing him to 15 life terms, 936 years behind bars. In Wisconsin, where the death penalty doesn't exist, it was the harshest punishment possible. Locked away in Columbia Correctional Institute, Dahmer found solace in faith, baptized in 1994 in a prison bathtub. But his redemption was short-lived. 6 months later, inmate Christopher Scarver ended Dahmer's life with a barbell, a grim echo of his first murder. Some saw it as justice. Others, like his mother, mourned the son beneath the monster, saying, "He was my boy." Milwaukee demolished his apartment in 1992, but the stain of his crimes lingers. Jeffrey Dahmer's legacy is a wound that never fully heals. His monstrous acts, driven by a twisted need to possess, to control, to escape his own loneliness, stand among the most heinous in history. He wasn't a cartoonish villain, but a man who looked like anyone else, hiding a darkness that defies understanding. His story, like a nightmare etched into reality, reminds us how close evil can lurk, waiting in the shadows of the everyday.